Bob, and really the goal of this call is to share a little bit about your experience, looking into solar, going solar. You're a little unique compared to some of the other testimonials that I have in that you had solar at a previous home before putting it on this house, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So you kind of have, two experiences to go off of. But, why don't we kind of start at the beginning before you ever got solar on your first house and just share, what sparked your interest in going solar and what were you hoping it could, help you accomplish?
Yeah, I think the main goal was just to make sure that, or do my part to provide some kind of clean energy for our use at least. And now I think being able to pump a little bit back is good until we, unless we have more or higher demand later on. But that was the first goal, and then when it's going to actually save me money. That was pretty good, and so it seems like a no-brainer for me. So when we get into this house, it took us a little longer than I thought it would. I think we been here a year and a half before we started checking into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked to a couple different people, 3 different people, I think, before we committed. And after talking to you, we were pretty sure we had the right team.
Awesome.
And now I know we do.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, and yeah, I think that's a common story. Some people, they were referred to us, and so they already feel comfortable. But it's not uncommon for people to get a couple of different quotes. What was it that you liked about meeting with me? Whether it was my approach or the services, products that we had, compared to some of the others.
Yeah, I think it was just, I didn't feel like it was a slick of presentation and, planned and just, boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's do it. You spent a lot of time on what do we really want to get out of it? Are we willing to, modify, or, chop our tree back a little bit? All those kind of things. And so you really spent the time in saying, let's see what we can do with what you got. And I just felt a lot more comfortable. Didn't feel like I was being railroaded down a path. Not to suggest that it wasn't that hard selling on the other side, but I just felt a lot more comfortable thinking, okay, I really felt like I could trust you right off the bat. Well, an hour and a half, as soon as I talked to you for a while.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And obviously, I work hard to take that approach and take my time with people to, ask good questions and find out, what's unique. A lot of people looking at solar maybe don't realize that it is pretty customized from home to home. And, so I try and take that customized approach when helping people figure out, hey, are you going solar? Is it a good plan for you, and how best to go about that, system size, things like that. If you don't mind sharing, like during, your meeting with me, obviously it was your second time doing solar, you had moved and this is a new house. Was there anything that you were surprised to learn, your second time around about what was available currently, things like that?
Yeah, it was, I was pleased that the financing and the potential transfer in the future was easier than what I thought the other one was going to be. That it wasn't really too hard on the other one either, but it seemed like there were a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. And when you're closing on a house, the last thing you do is want to have to jump through a bunch of hoops.
Right.
So it's much easier now. And so I like that. I think probably the biggest change since we had it, I guess, 7 years ago,
Hmm.
5 years in the other house before we moved. Um, it was, I think the max you could do was 80%.
Mm.
So to figure out that, okay, we can go with 130% and come up with a system that if we do add a car, uh, you know, any kind of for any EV vehicle, then we had a way to charge it. We had and in the meantime, we could just rack up points for the future. So
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. I think also the Castle Rock area, when we were, I think one of the last ones that got solar, and our Excel just seems a lot easier to work with. The other company they ended up doing a buyback program that it wasn't just a meter, it was I think we were changing to 80% or buyback. And so to see Excel going, one for one, and being able to just watch the meter spin backwards is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think that's important for people listening or watching to know is it does vary, as you mentioned, for each utility. And that's part of my job is helping folks navigate that and understand what is available for the utility. And sometimes it even varies from year to year. So that's all stuff we kind of take into account when consulting people. And you mentioned your last house, there was a couple of hoops to go through, but you were able to transfer it to the new owners. Was that a lease? Was that a lease or ownership system that you had?
It was a lease system.
It was a lease. Okay.
And so it just basically needed to have the paperwork showing, one convincing the owners, that the new owners, that they want it.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't real obvious to them, I think, at first. And it was just break it down month by month and show them that we're paying, pretty much a reduction in the original electric price. So, and I haven't really looked yet, but I think right now the rates have already jumped since we got it, or since we contracted it. So I think we're probably already starting to see a little bit of the payback in terms of a hedge against the increase in power costs. So
yeah,
it's just a bonus. I mean, if it was 1-to-1, I'd be pretty happy when it goes the other way. I'm not going to argue.
Yeah, absolutely. And just curious, so you had leasing before. Why did you choose ownership this time around for your solar plan?
It just made sense, I think. You had talked about different options, and that's a better way to go.
Yeah.
Make it a little bit easier on resale, and we expect to be in this house for a long time. But you never know.
Yeah.
So we wanted to have that back door, but also paying off the system makes sense.
Okay, great. And then in terms of like how the system benefits you guys, short term, long term, you talked a little bit about that, but was there anything else you wanted to share about that?
Well, I think there may be things that I hadn't really thought about. Long term, it might be more than some EV add-ons, but things like some heating with the price of gas going up so much, maybe that will add some space heater kind of things, larger. And, probably the next time the water heater goes out, we'll change to electric. Things I probably would have never thought would have been a cost-effective way to go, but the solar really changes that. I can add that and not feel like I'm going some efficient route. Uh, 'Cause I'm generating it right on top of my roof.
Right, right. Okay, so it sounds like a little bit of a efficiency and also long-term savings, as you know, you might be switching over more appliances to electric, which is pretty common these days, and seeing the gas and electric prices increasing even in the last 6 months since you got your system contracted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And then in terms of the the process itself, I know we had a couple of delays with a few stages in your project, but how do you feel kind of overall about how the team handled the project at each stage in terms of communication and getting things done?
Yeah, it was kind of an odd situation because um, power working out of Florida during the hurricane, and that disrupted communication for a bit. But in all, I think the people here in Colorado were making changes, and I think the only problem really was that getting up higher, and so I think that smoothed out later on, and we got everything we were expecting. Maybe producing a little bit more than I thought, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that even during snowstorms, I'm generating a little bit of power, and now that we've passed the winter solstice, I just see the output increasing. Just still a little addicted to the software that tells me how much I'm generating.
Yeah.
That'll go away at some point.
So for those of you watching this later, he's referring to the monitoring software. It's an app for the phone or your computer that he can actually see what the system is producing in real time, and then over the course of days, weeks, and so forth. It can be pretty fun to look at that and see what it's doing.
Especially this time of year, you get your little bell curve of every day, every full Sunday, or sunny day, you see a curve go up with just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Pretty rewarding.
Yeah.
But I guess on that note, it probably seems like if we had thought about it in January, obviously that would have made a lot more sense to try to get a system installed early in the year. But both times we did it right before the cold weather and the snow and short days. But we're already generating. There's no snow on the horizons. We're generating more than we're using, so that's a promising thing for the summer.
Yeah, very promising. Yeah, that's great to hear, and I think you mentioned earlier your system is producing more than we had even kind of estimated, which is common. We usually try and underestimate with those initial production figures slightly, so that we can over deliver. But yeah, typically, the systems are producing almost twice as much during peak summer versus, the middle of winter. So that's a really good sign. Yeah. And you mentioned one other thing too, just about the hurricane in Florida. So to put context to that for some other folks, he's referring to the project manager on his project was also helping out with some projects in Florida. She lived in Florida, so there was some situations that caused some issues with the hurricane. So we're not immune to natural disasters and things like that. But I'm glad we were able to get it all sorted for you. Yeah. And then since now that you have solar, if you want to kind of share with people a little bit about the ambassador program and how you're hoping to utilize that to help others go solar and maybe actually do some fundraising for your church as well.
Yeah, since I've gotten it, I posted something on Facebook and gotten a lot of interest from people that wanted to learn more. And it's been kind of a crazy couple of weeks since just retired 2 weeks ago, and so now,
Congratulations, by the way.
so now I want to switch gears and try to get back with everybody and show them what I get, and put them in contact with you. And it sounds like the ambassador program is the best way to do that. And then sounds like we can easily tie that to donate back to the church. So that's a nice combination.
Yeah.
And our church has our values, and our church are pretty much geared towards that too, of trying to help the environment, and help reduce our footprint. So I like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it was really inspiring, and it was one of your fellow church members that referred you to me initially. So, it's I love when we can, build community and and serve others through work like this. So.
Yeah, he called me just in the nick of time. I was excited about that. So,
yeah.
So perfect. I think I was probably a day away from signing, so it was good to not have to do any more research at that point. Get the whole thing started.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you for your time, Bob. I think that I'm sure this has been valuable for the people watching, listening to this later on, sharing your perspective, your experience. And any like kind of remaining or last thoughts, words of encouragement for folks that are curious about solar but maybe don't know where to start. Yeah
I think maybe the main thing is just that you don't since I'm retiring, money's going to become more of an issue, and so you can get into solar without it being a burden that way. Actually, the opposite. So it's not a big decision in that way to, I'm gonna have to spend $15,000 for the solar system. That you can just do it and start pocketing money pretty shortly after that, at the rate of increases in energy throughout the country. And that doesn't look like it's going to go down very soon, unless we get everybody on solar.
Yeah. Well, we're ways away from that. Yeah, I think we have about a 4% saturation nationwide of homes that could have solar. So, but we've got a lot. We got a lot of money from the federal government and some state incentives in certain areas as well. So, and just to kind of clarify, you're referring to the way that you went solar was utilizing a zero money out of pocket, like low interest solar loan, so you didn't have to pay anything until after your system is up and running, and at that point it's replacing your electric bill, correct?
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, well, thanks, Bob. Hope you have an excellent day. Well,
hey, you too. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.